You already know that feeling. You're in a conversation explaining something and halfway through you can see it happening right in front of you. Their eyes shift slightly. Their smile goes polite instead of genuine. They nod, but not because they understand. They nod because they want you to stop talking, and you feel it, that invisible wall going up, and you just keep adding more words, more context, more detail, hoping that somewhere in all of it something lands, but it never does. And you walk away from that conversation feeling misunderstood, frustrated, maybe even a little embarrassed. That is not a communication problem. That is an over-explanation problem. And it is quietly costing you more than you realize. Here is what nobody tells you. The smartest people in any room are almost always the worst communicators. Not because they lack intelligence, because they have too much of it. They understand things so deeply that when they try to share those things, they pour everything out all at once. Every nuance, every exception, every supporting detail. And the person listening just drowns in it. Meanwhile, the person who keeps it simple, who says the one right thing at the right moment, that person gets the promotion. That person closes the deal. That person gets listened to, remembered, trusted. Every single time. And here is what is wild. Most people spending years grinding to become better at their actual skill, whatever that is, while the thing that is literally holding them back has nothing to do with their skill level and everything to do with how they communicate. We have a program linked in the description below that goes much deeper into exactly this. Spots are not unlimited and the people already inside are getting results fast, so if this resonates with you at all, check it out now before you keep watching. Because what I am about to show you is going to change how you see every conversation you have for the rest of your life. So let's get into it. Think about the last time you had to explain something important. A project at work, an idea you were excited about, a solution to a problem your team was stuck on. You probably prepared, you probably thought it through, and then when the moment came you talked, and talked. And the other person either cut you off, changed the subject, or worse, just said, yeah, sounds good, and did absolutely nothing with what you said. That moment right there. That is the cost of over-explaining. And the cost is not just emotional, though it is deeply emotional. It is practical, measurable, real. People who communicate with clarity are consistently seen as more competent, more confident, and more leadership-ready than people who do not. Studies in organizational psychology show that leaders who communicate simply and directly are rated significantly higher in trust and effectiveness than those who communicate with complexity. The words, I trust this person, and I understand this person, are almost always the same feeling, wearing different clothes. So what is actually happening when you over-explain? Here is the deeper truth that most people never look at. When you over-explain, you are not informing the other person. You are actually protecting yourself. Every extra sentence is a layer of armor. If I give you everything, every angle, every caveat, then you cannot misunderstand me. You cannot judge me. You cannot reject what I said because I have accounted for every possible objection. That is the psychology underneath it. But what the other person experiences is completely different. What they feel is a lack of confidence. They sense that you do not fully believe in what you are saying, because if you did, you would not need to justify it so heavily. Confidence sounds like one clear statement delivered and then held. Anxiety sounds like 3 paragraphs explaining why the statement is right. And you have been the receiver of this too. You have been in conversations where someone just kept talking and you started wondering, why are they still going? What are they afraid of? And your trust in them actually dropped with every sentence they added. You have been there. So has everyone. Now here is where it gets really interesting. The moment you start communicating with clarity, with genuine, practiced, intentional clarity, something shifts in how people see you, not just in what they think, but in how they feel around you. People start finishing conversations with you and walking away feeling good, without quite knowing why. They feel respected. Because clarity is respect. When you take a complex thing and distill it down to exactly what someone needs to understand, you are showing them that their time matters to you, that you did the work so they do not have to. That one shift alone has moved people from invisible to indispensable inside organizations, from struggling freelancer to fully booked in months, from the person in the room whose ideas get skipped over to the person whose ideas everyone waits to hear. So how do you actually do it? Let's go there. The first thing you have to understand is the difference between information and communication. Information is everything you know about a topic. Communication is the 1 or 2 things the other person actually needs right now. Every single time you open your mouth or sit down to write something, your only job is to find those 1 or 2 things and cut everything else. Everything else is noise. And noise is not neutral. Noise actively works against you. Here is a filter that changes everything. Before you say anything, ask yourself one question. What is the single most important thing this person needs to understand from me right now? Just one thing. If you cannot answer that in 5 seconds or less, you are not ready to communicate yet. You are still in information mode. Keep thinking until the one thing becomes crystal clear. Then lead with that, not with context, not with background, not with the story of how you arrived at the one thing first. Always. This is called leading with the point. And it is the most underused communication shift in professional and personal settings alike. Most people bury the point at the end after exhausting the listener with everything that led up to it. The listener has already checked out by then. They never even get to the point that could have changed things. Flip that structure completely. Lead with the point. Then, and only then, support it briefly with one or two reasons or pieces of evidence. Then, stop. That is the whole structure. Point, support, stop. It sounds almost dangerously simple, but that is exactly why it works. Because the human brain does not resist simple things. It relaxes into them. Now let's talk about what this looks like in real life, because that is where it actually matters. Imagine you are trying to convince someone to move forward on a decision. The old version of you loads them up with data, walks them through the full background, explains every risk and mitigation strategy, and by the end they are overwhelmed and paralyzed. They say they need to think about it. They never get back to you. The decision dies. The new version of you looks at them and says one clear, confident thing. Something like, "This is the right move and here is the one reason I believe that." Then you say the one reason, and you stop talking. And in that silence, something extraordinary happens. They start thinking. And their own brain starts filling in the gaps, drawing their own conclusions, aligning with yours. Because you gave their mind space to do that. Clarity creates space. And space is where decisions get made. This works in emails, in meetings, in sales conversations, in difficult personal conversations, in job interviews, everywhere. Because people are the same everywhere. Everyone's brain is working the same way, craving simplicity, drowning in complexity. Let's talk about one more invisible pattern that is keeping you from communicating clearly. Because this one is subtle, and it is wrecking more conversations than anything else. It is the habit of qualifying everything you say. You have heard yourself do this. Things like, "I might be wrong, but," or "This is just my opinion," or "I could be off base here." Those phrases feel humble, they feel safe. But what they actually do is preemptively undermine every word that follows them. You are telling the other person not to fully trust what you are about to say before you even say it. And they listen accordingly. They give your idea about 70% of their attention instead of 100. They weigh it less, they remember it less. Cut those qualifiers. Not because you need to be arrogant, but because humility does not live in your sentence structure. It lives in how you listen after you speak. You can be genuinely open to being wrong while still delivering your perspective with full confidence. Those two things are not in conflict. They feel like they are, but they are not. The most intellectually humble people in any room also tend to be the most direct communicators. That is not a coincidence. Now pull all of this back together and look at the larger picture of what changes when you make this shift for real. Not just one conversation improves. Every conversation improves. And the compound effect of that over months and years is almost incomprehensible. The raise you finally get because your boss actually understands the value you bring. The client relationship that deepens because they always feel clear and respected after talking to you. The personal relationship that stops being exhausting because you stopped drowning each other in endless explanation and started actually connecting. The version of you in rooms a year from now that people lean in to listen to, instead of politely waiting for, to finish, that is the return on this investment. Not a small return. A life-changing one. And the investment is not money or time in the traditional sense. The investment is the willingness to do the hard, uncomfortable work of simplifying, of trusting that less is more, of resisting the urge to protect yourself with more words. Most people will read this far and nod and feel moved and then go back to doing exactly what they have always done, and their conversations will keep costing them exactly what they have always cost them. That is just the truth. But if something in what you have heard today lit something up inside you, if you felt yourself in these examples, if you are done with the version of yourself that walks away from important moments feeling unheard and frustrated, then the program linked in the description is the next logical step. It takes everything you just heard and goes exponentially deeper, with structure, practice, and real transformation built in. The people already inside are not waiting, and neither should you. Your next conversation is coming faster than you think, and you can either show up to it the same way you always have, or you can show up differently. That choice is available to you right now.